Or I guess it'll show on the screen. So we're on air. All right. We'll wait to see when the video comes up for everybody here. Good evening. Tonight I'm here with my friend Christian.
Hi everyone.
And this is Melissa. There I see us. This is Melissa with Love Notes from God. And we're excited tonight to talk to you. This is a book called None Dare Call It Conspiracy. You saw in the thumbnail. But anyways, it's interesting it's 2026 right now. There's been a lot of things going on with people like Nick Shirley. He's actually is LDS, returned missionary. He's been home for a few years, and he was exposing some things from going down to the border. He learned Spanish and then thought that he should just go over there and talk to people and ask them what was going on. And Cash Jordan, somebody else that I watch from time to time, and he's got a lot of things that he kind of reveals and helps to show that are going on. Anyway, so Christian, do you watch very much? Are there very much conspiracy types of things that you watch, or things in the news?
I do see things here and there. I know there's people that are more heavily into it. I feel like I like to get some information. A lot of it's depressing, but some of it's interesting. I don't like being shut off to it, but I don't like being too immersed in it because it can drag you down. But you have to have some awareness. So you have to you can't be naive.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And well, that's the thing is with the scripture is it helps us to see, because there's these patterns that repeat in the pride circle and everything, and the things that are happening. And so as we go along reading through None Dare Call It Conspiracy, tonight we'll do chapter 1. Hopefully we'll make it through that. I've done it myself, but it's a lot more fun to be with somebody. And I really appreciate Christian. He's just kind of a wealth of knowledge. I was telling my husband the other night that I'm like, some people send you like a link that they found online. Christian sends you pictures of pages from books because he has that's where he gets a lot of different things from I know. So
true.
Anyway, so all right, well, we're going to go ahead and start reading. Let's see. Well, the introduction, and you go ahead and if you tell us about who we were recommended to read this book by, and just a brief bit about him.
Well, we were talking beforehand about President Ezra Taft Benson recommending this book in the October 1972 General Conference, and he was in the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. He was about to become the president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. And yes, when you hear about a book being recommended in conference, that gives it some definite weight.
Yeah.
Pay attention. Put your ears up.
Well, and then he was what position? He was in the president's cabinet, right? Of the United States of America.
That is correct. So he became an apostle in, I think it was 1944, 1945, right near the end of World War II. And about 8 years later, he was asked by, I think, Eisenhower to become the Secretary of Agriculture for the whole country. And he had to ask for first presidency permission to do that. That's not typical. They reviewed it and felt like, hey, that would be okay in this case. And he kind of did double duty for about 8 years.
Yeah,
that just really exposed him a lot more to even more the government inner workings.
Yeah, and I think that is really just quite amazing when you think about it. I hadn't realized that till just several years ago that anybody in like the Quorum of the 12 Apostles had been in like in a presidential recommended situation like that. So
It's not, it doesn't happen often. There's been a couple of things like where Reed Smoot got permission to be a U.S. senator while he was in the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. Uh, there's just a small handful of situations like that.
yeah, so yeah, it's amazing. And hello to whoever just joined us. Thanks for coming on. Please let us know where you're from. Oh, and so I'm in Idaho, over in the Boise area, and Christian, you're in California. Where are you at in California?
You could say Orange County. I'm about 10 miles from Disneyland.
Well, that's what people want to know, right?
Sometimes sometimes that's an easy way to put it, especially when I went on my mission to Ireland and people would ask where I was from, and I could say, "Well, I'm from Fountain Valley." But that didn't mean anything to them. If I said I lived right near Disneyland, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So
All right.
yeah,
So the introduction, it says, the story you are about to read is true. The names have not been changed to protect the guilty. This book may have the effect of changing your life. After reading this book, you will never look at national and world events in the same way again. None dare call it conspiracy will be a very controversial book. At first, it will receive little publicity, and those whose plans are exposed in it will try to kill it by the silent treatment. For reasons that become obvious as you read this book, it will not be reviewed in all the proper places or be available on your local book stand. However, there is nothing these people can do to stop a grassroots book distributing system. Eventually, it will be necessary for the people and organizations named in this book to try to blunt its effect by attacking it or the author. They have a tremendous vested interest in keeping you from discovering what they are doing, and they have the big guns of the mass media at their disposal to fire the barrages, and none dare call it conspiracy. Very relevant in 2026. Still happening,
oh, oh
right?
yeah.
And this, oh, let's see, this book is in 1971, by the way, just for reference. I forgot to mention
Very
that.
recent.
Yeah. By sheer volume, the experts will try to ridicule you out of investigating for yourself as to whether or not the information in this book is true. They will ignore the fact that the author admits that some of his ideas are about to conjecture.
There you
Oh,
go.
because the people who know the truth are not about to confess. They will find a typographical error or argue some point that is open to debate. If necessary, they will lie in order to protect themselves by smearing this book. Psychologically, many people would prefer to believe those who poo hoo the information herein because we all like to ignore bad news. We do so at our own peril. And after I read this intro, we'll talk a bit about what's been going on with that, ignoring what's going on. Having
Well,
been,
that kind of ties in with what I was saying a couple of
Mhm.
minutes ago. That like it's in a way it's not fun to have to hear it, but you can't blind yourself to it and be like, oh, I'm not going to expose myself to it at all. You have to have some amount of learning about it.
Awareness, yeah. Having been a college instructor, a state senator, and now a congressman, I have had experience with real professionals at putting up smoke screens to cover up their own actions by trying to destroy the accuser. I hope that you will read the book carefully, draw your own conclusions, and not accept the opinions of those who, of necessity, must attempt to discredit the book. Your future may depend on it. And that's from John G. Schmitz, United States Congressman.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like we were talking about, I mean, you're in California. I mean, that was it, Minnesota is where they've had a lot of the fraud that they've been exposing lately here, 2026, January. Well, February now.
Minnesota's getting a lot of the attention. They exposed a lot there. Then a little bit happened in Ohio. And then Nick Shirley apparently traveled to California and a
Oh,
few
yeah,
days
right?
ago, and him and a couple others are ready to expose things here, and they're finding things.
Yeah. Which I'm sure is no shock to you.
No
So
surprise.
yeah, yeah, it's too bad that they got to go clean house like that, but you know,
I
anyways,
like my state, and I want it to be unencumbered by corruption.
yeah, yeah, it's been going on for quite a while. There's a reason why a lot of people move out of California, unfortunately, and they just
I
get tired.
recently found one of my dad's books where a California state senator was talking about the problems he saw and how they would compound in the future if they weren't made aware of and addressed. Well, this book was from 1967.
Oh yeah, right. And of
So
course,
my
it
dad
takes
was
them.
reading in 1967 about like, oh, the problems creeping into California.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and of course, they didn't just write those things in one day. They didn't write them probably in one year. It was like over several years that it takes to put things together. But
Yep.
all right. So chapter one, don't confuse me with facts. Most of us have had the experience, either as parents or youngsters, of trying to discover the hidden picture within another picture in a children's magazine. Usually, you are shown a landscape with trees, bushes, flowers, and other bits of nature. The caption reads something like this: concealed somewhere in this picture is a donkey pulling a cart with a boy in it. Can you find them? Try as you might, usually you could not find the hidden picture until you turned to a page farther back in the magazine, which would reveal how cleverly the artist had hidden it from us. If we study the landscape, we realize that the whole picture was painted in such a way as to conceal the real picture within. And once we see the real picture, it stands out like the proverbial painful digit. Well, and just speaking about that, I know that that's been one of the things that how they've been able to hide so much of this, the fraud that's been happening lately here, 2026. And of course, it was happening earlier in 2025. They were putting out the news stories. They're putting out the news stories mostly 2025, I would think. Um,
Yep.
Seems like. And then they're talking about we have to have, without this homeless population or these people in need, we don't have people to feel sorry and just start dishing out money because they feel bad. They're
Yeah.
saying, I don't know if I heard some numbers on the homeless population in California and like the billions of dollars that they've been putting supposedly towards helping with the homeless population problem in California, not really taking care of the right solution, I'm sure. Just trying to
Correct.
be like, well, let's put a band aid on a broken arm, right? And stuff. And so
Well,
that's they've been able to hide all that money by being like, but we're so generous and caring, we need more money, right? It's just sick.
well, it's putting the compassionate face on it, but not actually solving the problem.
Hmm.
But like you're saying, they can keep saying, well, if you just keep giving us more money, eventually the problem might get solved.
Right. Oh, and it's so sad to see, like, how do you go to bed at night knowing that you're ripping people off and you've got to keep these people homeless out there in the street, or you have no cause? You have no like they said, exactly like this picture painting you this picture of what's going on, and it's actually not what's actually happening.
Correct. Correct.
We believe the picture painters of the mass media are artfully creating landscapes for us, which deliberately hide the real picture. In this book, sorry, we will show you how to discover the hidden picture in the landscapes presented to us daily through the newspapers, radio, and television. Once you can see through the camouflage, you will see the donkey, the cart, and the boy who have been there all along. Millions of Americans are concerned and frustrated over mishappenings in our nation. They feel that something is wrong, drastically wrong, but because of the picture painters, they can't quite put their fingers on it. Maybe you are one of those persons, something is bugging you, but you aren't sure what. We keep electing new presidents who seemingly promise faithfully to halt the worldwide communist advance. But the blocks to extravagant government spending, douse the tea of inflation, put the economy on an even keel, reverse the trend, which is turning the country into a moral sewer. And that's in 71, right? That's in
Yeah.
71. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
And toss the criminals into the Hooskow where they belong. Well, that's been the other issue that's been getting sorted out with ICE. And yeah. Um, and I know as I've been looking at some of the stuff during the pandemic times, it seems like just a while after that, I know what I'd heard about happening quite a bit in California, I think in other places too, is this whole kind of catch and release thing where you arrest somebody, but then you just let him back out. Is that right? That's what's been happening in
I
California?
know that that happens. It's kind of like, well, look, we're doing something, but it's not an effective something.
Mhm. Well, I just know when I heard about, I'm not really big into like comic books and stuff, but I was like, isn't this sounds a lot like Gotham, like a lawless place, where
Yeah, yeah.
because I believe that was the
Mm.
place where they were supposed to be so corrupt and stuff that they were just, there was just lawlessness and criminals out there on the street and
Well, it's
no.
supposed to be about how Commissioner Gordon's doing the best he can as
Mhm.
the regular law enforcement guy and is overwhelmed and kind of beleaguered with all the crime, and Batman has to come in and help.
Clean up.
So yeah, clean up the- yeah.
Yeah, that's just what I thought when I heard hearing those things about California. I was like, "What is this, Gotham?" Like I work for Walmart, and the WalMarts are closing over in that area. I know in particular in some places in California, I believe from them just allowing them to just rob the stores. Because is it still that you are allowed to steal a certain amount of goods up to like
So,
$1,000?
there was something, I think it might have been $950.
Um, mm,
There was that there was wording in some memo or uh, bill a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, where it was saying like you're not going to go to jail if what you steal is under $950.
yeah, in California, right? Yeah.
There was the way they worded it. I think it kind of snickered a lot of people, and that went through. And then a lot of places were affected by it. And I know that there were businesses near here where they closed down because they were just victims of thievery way too much. Amazingly, that ended up getting reversed,
Oh, good.
which that's like that. It's one of those things where you think, oh, we're just stuck with this. It's never going to go back the better way. And I even was at like a 7-Eleven recently and saw a note on their door saying, thank you everyone for getting this bill passed that reversed the bad one, like because they were just having everything pilfered from them.
Hmm.
So that amazingly, thankfully, has gotten a little bit better. And yes, places did close because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just, ugh. All you just shake your head or pound your fist. You know?
Yeah. And then I saw things like, I don't know if it was true, but I saw memes about how like some independent convenience store owner was like, everything here costs $951, but when you bring it up to the register, I'll give you a discount. Yeah.
Yeah, huh. Let's see. So, yet despite high hopes, and glittering campaign promises, these problems continue to worsen no matter who is in office. Each new administration, whether it be Republican or Democrat, continues the same basic policies of the previous administration, which it had so thoroughly denounced during the election campaign. It is considered poor form to mention this, but it is true nonetheless. Is there a plausible reason to explain why this happens? We are not supposed to think so. We are supposed to think it is all accidental and coincidental, and that therefore there is nothing we can do about it. So FDR once said, so that's Franklin Delano Roosevelt, in politics, nothing happens by accident. If it happens, you can bet it was planned that way. He was in a good position to know. We believe that many of the major world events that are shaping our destinies occur because somebody or somebodies have planned them that way. If we were merely dealing with a law of averages, half of the events affecting our nation's well being should be good for America. If we were dealing with mere incompetence, our leaders should occasionally make a mistake in our favor. We shall attempt to prove that we are not really dealing with coincidences or stupidity, but with planning and brilliance. This small book deals with the planning and brilliance and how it has shaped the foreign and domestic policies of the last 6 administrations. And of course, again, this was in the 70s, early 70s. We hope it will explain matters which have to now seemed inexplicable, that it will bring into sharp focus images which have been obscured by the landscape painters of the mass media. And hello to those that are in the that are watching, and we love to see where you're from, and we'll definitely read comments as you comment. Yeah, do you have anything you want to add to that I read so far there, Christian?
I think right now we're good to continue, but it does have, well, something that was said earlier was about how all this builds up over time, and you don't just find yourself in a mess 1 second after it starts. There's an accumulation that occurs.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And
We
those
have to
who,
always be vigilant.
yeah, yeah, and that's that thing of having that discernment from God to know that something just isn't quite right, even if you don't know what it is. We're given those promptings and those feelings for a reason, but then we have to choose to do something about it. So let's
Correct.
see. Those who believe that major world events result from planning are laughed at for believing in the conspiracy theory of history. Of course, no one in this modern day and age really believes in the conspiracy theory of history, except those who have taken the time to study the subject. When you think about it, there are really only two theories of history. Either things happen by accident, neither planned nor caused by anybody, or they happen because they are planned and somebody causes them to happen. In reality, it is the accidental theory of history preached in the unhallowed halls of Ivy League, I guess, which should be ridiculed. Otherwise, why does every recent administration make the same mistakes as the previous ones? Why do they repeat the errors of the past, which produce inflation, depressions, and war? Why does our State Department stumble from one communist aiding blunder to another? If you believe it is all an accident or the result of mysterious or inexplicable tides of history, you will be regarded as an intellectual who understands that we live in a complex world. If you believe that something like 32,496 consecutive coincidences over the past 40 years stretches the law of averages a bit, you are a kook. Why is it that virtually all reputable scholars and mass media, columnists, and commentators reject the cause and effect of conspiratorial theory of history? Primarily, most scholars follow the crowd in an academic world, just as most women follow fashions. To buck the tide means social and professional ostracism. The same is true of the mass media. While professors and pontificators profess to be tolerant and broad minded, in practice, it's strictly a one way street with all the traffic following left. A Maoist can be tolerated by liberals of ivory tower land or by the establishment's media pundits, but to be a conservative and a conservative who propounds a conspiratorial view is absolutely verboten. Better you should be a drunk at a national WCTU convention. Let's see. WCTU. What is that? Do you know what that is?
No, WCTU.
It's not World Economic Forum. That's not the right letters. WCTU convention.
Women's
National.
Christian Temperance Union.
Oh. Hmm. Well, and so did you
Founded in
go?
1874.
Oh, huh.
Yeah.
So that was really fresh for them, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, see, and Christian, so did you go to college and stuff or?
I actually got a bachelor's degree from BYU, Hawaii.
Oh,
Yep.
so what's it? So have you been in California for a long time?
Born in California, went on my mission to Ireland, went to school in Hawaii, brief moments living elsewhere, but mostly California.
What is this kind of thing that we talk about? What does this feel like for you with like the things that you've seen, people that you see, how people react? Any thoughts you have that you want to, because you're also a business owner, right?
Correct. Yeah, and that's its whole own story. But I just think there's a lot of things that people need to wake up to. Like if there's fraud going on, it should be addressed. You shouldn't be like, well, that's okay, that's okay. Like, hey, that affects all of us. It drags us all down. Even if you don't see it right away, something's got to be done. But I mean, they've been finding with Nick Shirley and then other people. He's the one that's getting a lot of attention lately. But there's just so much of a buildup, and then that affects how much taxes you pay, and this and that. That it's a hidden tax in a way. So once again, it's the awareness, and it doesn't mean you're against a person or a group. It means you're against fraud. Does that
Well,
make sense?
that's yeah, and that's what they like to try to use, right? That's what they're trying to be like. But you're kind generous and kind, right? Let's if you're nice, you'll do this. You'll pay out all this money. But the sad thing
Yeah.
is it's kind of like there was a lady that I saw that when people like hoard things, and there was like a woman who was hoarding cats. And she was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I don't want to have any strays and I want to help them." She didn't realize how many were like living in her garage and having babies and they were dying and stuff because it was just
Multiplying.
unhealthy conditions.
Yeah.
So I think that's really kind of a good example of the things that have been happening is they put out this persona, and the people, there's many people with really good intentions that really want to help, but they don't know
Yep.
how to do it. So,
Yeah, and that's a good point. It's like you can start out with a true compassionate thought, but then that doesn't mean you turn a blind eye to, you know, corruption, fraud, waste, etc.
well, hello to the ones who just hopped on to the live stream. Please let us know where you're from. I'm in Idaho, and Christian here is in California. So the place that's on the hit list right now for going through checking the fraud and uncovering things right now. So
Let us know
California,
where you're from.
yes, we would love to know where you're from. Absolutely. So we're in chapter 1 of Nundare Cult Conspiracy. So I'm going to read a little bit more. We're talking about, and please mention any current events where you're at, um, and things that are going on, or things that you have seen in the news, or things that you're wondering about, things that seem suspicious. I know that I work at a big company, and often I people ask me questions about things, and I'm like, well, which answer do you want, their answer or mine? So, like,
Yeah.
my thing is, I'm like, I've been suggesting this bread and I think it's pretty healthy, and that's why they took it off the shelf now, because it doesn't have preservatives or food coloring and things like that. And I've been suggesting it, and I've been watching on the shelf where that area has grown, where they were supplying, and now they're
Yep.
not selling that bread anymore. Feels
Hmm.
a little suspicious to
Well,
me. And I always tell people which,
that sounds interesting.
yeah, and I always tell people which chicken nuggets are the best ones. I'm like, don't waste your money on these
Oh,
other ones. Try these chicken nuggets are the best.
okay. Okay.
So, yeah, I'm like, I just only know how to be honest. I'm like, and somebody asked me, we needed a team lead, and they're like, oh, would you like to, are you going to apply for that? I'm like, I'm not married to this place. I just work here. So But
we could have a whole discussion about food and yeah, all that.
yeah, I've worked
Lots to
in,
talk about there.
yeah, I've worked, oh yeah, that's like, yeah. Well, if you decide to drop it, you can always put your hand up and let me know if you're like, I got something, I gotta say something. So, because I'm trying to get better at this. Anyways,
Um,
yes, hello, more people. Hello. Okay, yes, please let us know where you're from. So such was the, okay, let's see. Let me make sure where I'm at. Okay. Oh, here we are. Secondly, these people have over the years acquired a strong vested emotional interest in their own errors. Their intellectuals and egos are totally committed to the accidental theory. Most people are highly reluctant to admit that they have been conned or have shown poor judgment, to inspect the evidence of the existence of a conspiracy guiding our political destiny from behind the scenes would force many of these people to repudiate a lifetime of accumulated opinions. It takes a person with strong character, indeed, to face the facts and admit has been wrong, even if it was because he was uninformed. Such was the case with the author of this book. It was only because he set out to prove the conservative anti-communists wrong that he happened to end up writing this book. So I'll read that again. Such was the case with the author of this book. It was only because he set out to prove the conservative anti-communists wrong. Conservative
wow.
anti-communists wrong. That
Yeah.
he happened to end up writing this book. His initial reaction to the conservative point of view was one of suspicion and hostility, and it was only after many months of intensive research that he had to admit that he had been conned. Oh, you want to read that one? You want to read can you see the comments there, Christian?
Yep. Uh, somebody, Alan Oni, 3366. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right. So this will shock you, but I'm from Meridian, Idaho.
He's family.
Hi, Alan.
Hey, Alan. And he's a teacher. He teaches history.
Wondered if you knew Alan. Okay. Okay. Am I saying the name right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Hi, Alan.
Yeah. Yeah, Alan, he's a rebel. He gets in trouble
Mhm.
at school
Yeah.
because he
Yeah, rebel.
tries to make things fun for the kids. Darn it! What in the heck is he thinking? Trying to keep those middle schoolers awake.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
anyways, yeah, he's the fun teacher that might be in trouble. Yeah. So, yeah, and Alan, anything you got to chime in to say, go right ahead. Hey, hey, he says. So hopefully I get my other brother-in-law to come on too, Bob, because he also was a principal at a school. And I know, especially when you've worked in schools, you know a lot of things. Sometimes things you wish you didn't know, but I know a lot of good people leave because of politics in schools, unfortunately. So and my own brother-in-law, he's a yeah, smoke and mirrors, he says. Yeah. I'll let you read the chat when they come up, Christian. I'll just you just go ahead and say it when the next one that comes up. But
Okay.
yeah, I know that my other brother-in-law, he was in the military, and he was like, after COVID, he's like, I think I'm gonna get fired. So I think I better look into a different avenue of work. Working
Okay.
for the schools.
Hmm.
Yeah, working for the schools. Because there's a lot of stuff going on with the masks and stuff. And yeah. Oh,
Alan
there he
said, at
is.
least you weren't ending the show as soon as I show up. Nope, not
that's
done
a,
quite yet.
that's what happened last time.
Oh, it happened before. Okay.
Yeah. With my other brother-in-law, he and I were doing one. Yeah, because he's a retired National Guard. And yeah, we were having a conversation, but yeah.
Okay.
So let's see. Where are we at here? Okay. Oh, okay. Politicians and intellectuals are attracted to the concept that events are propelled by some mysterious tide of history. Here you are, Alan. Chime in, man. Or happen by accident. By this reasoning, they hope to escape the blame when things go wrong. Well, that says a lot about California right there, doesn't it, right now?
Yeah. Welcome to California.
I just say to people, I'm like, it's too bad that I understand people wanted to move out of California with some of the things that were going on during the pandemic, but I'm like, you moved out when there was an election going on. I'm like, would some more people's votes have made a difference? And I'm like, unfortunately,
Maybe,
probably not.
maybe.
you know,
Well,
in
yeah, I know what you mean.
reality of what we see.
Yeah, know what you
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah, and that's why I have to say to people, and they're like, "Well, these different places they voted this way, and that's why it's this way." And I think that, and I was just felt like, no, I don't really think we know how people have voted for a long time and stuff. And so I know that there's been more people who have kind of come to see what's going on actually, which is
Hmm.
which is why they wanted to try and make everybody hate America because they don't want to good look bad and bad look good. Not perfect, but
Yeah.
we got a good system, best
Hmm.
we can have for now. But
Huh.
let's see. Most intellectuals, pseudo and otherwise, deal with the conspiratorial theory of history simply by ignoring it. As you were talking about, don't ignore it. They never attempt to refute the evidence. It can't be refuted. If and when the silent treatment doesn't work, these objective scholars and mass media opinion molders resort to personal attacks. Yeah, that's happening. Personal attacks,
Yep.
ridicule, and
Yep.
satire. The personal
Yep.
attacks tend to divert the attention from the facts, which an author or speaker is trying to expose. The idea is
Yep.
to force the person exposing the conspiracy to stop the exposure and spend his time and effort defending himself. And I will have to say, there was a time during the election with Mitt Romney and Barack Obama that I noticed something that seemed really out of place on stage. And Mitt Romney said something about like, and I'm going to make China play fair. And it was like crickets. Like they just
Oh.
pretend he did. They was like they did pretended he didn't say anything. Did you watch that
Hmm.
one?
That's going back to 2008. I was kind of paying attention to some of it. Yeah. Um.
But
That was definitely a thing.
go ahead.
Well, and I remember wondering, are we going to have an LDS president of the United States? Oh, okay.
And one of the interesting things they said too is they said, Who won? The Mormon Church did because people started asking about the church. so
Hmm.
that was a win there for because then some people were like, heck, I'll take the Mormon over the. I remember a shirt. I'll take the Mormon over the moron, and it was a guy that
Oh,
looks like a motorcycle biker, kind of tough guy, and he's like,
oh wow. Okay.
"Yeah, I'll take the
Okay.
Mormon over the moron."
All right. Just remove the M.
We're on the winning side of that end, I guess, that time. All right, let's see. However, the most effective weapons used against the conspiratorial theory of history are ridicule and satire. These extremely potent weapons can be cleverly used to avoid any honest attempt at refuting the facts. After all, nobody likes to be made fun of. Rather than be ridiculed, most people will keep quiet. And this subject certainly does lend itself to ridicule and satire. One technique which can be used is to expand the conspiracy to the extent it becomes absurd. For instance, our man from the halls of poison ivy might say in a scoffing, arrogant tone, I suppose you believe every liberal professor gets a telegram each morning from conspiracy headquarters quarters containing his orders for the day's brainwashing of his students. Some conspiratorialists do indeed overdraw this picture by expanding the conspiracy from the small clique, which it is, to include every local knee-jerk liberal activist and government bureaucrat, or let's see, or because of racial or religious bigotry. They will take small fragments of legitimate evidence and expand them into a conclusion that will support their particular prejudice, i.e., the conspiracy is totally Jewish, Catholic, or Masonic. We've been hearing those religious those names a lot in things lately. These people do not help to expose the conspiracy. Go ahead.
No, go on.
You're disagreeing.
I just agree. Well, I was thinking it, with all the stuff about how he's saying that the people trying to expose this will then be ridiculed and satired and stuff. I was thinking, what if this author saw our day with YouTube and the like and Twitter and all the stuff that goes on?
An AI, right?
Oh, yeah. All the stuff. That would just if he could just glimpse into the future and see what's happening now.
And not die from shock.
Yeah, yeah.
But sadly play into the hands of those who want the public to believe that all conspiratorialists are screwballs. And it's really interesting because there's been a new pope for the Catholic Church. I don't remember if it was this last year, 2025, or the year before. I really think it was kind of the beginning of 2025. It seems like, but I know. But his English is really good, and I know that he has come out and said some things, kind of like you should not be worshiping the Blessed Virgin Mary so much, like you should be worshiping Christ, praying to God. Did you hear
I've
something
heard
about
a
that?
couple things that the new pope is saying, and I think he was born and raised in America, I believe, like in Chicago or something, which is interesting. I think he's the first American-born pope, I believe.
Yes, I believe so. That's what I remember hearing. Yeah. Yep. So intellectuals are fond of mouthing cliches like the conspiracy theory is often tempting. However, it is overly simplistic to ascribe absolutely everything that happens in the machinations of a small group.
Machinations.
Machinations. I know you'd be doing so much better if you were reading this. I know that you're just
funny word.
Yeah. Let's see, where am I at again? Machinations of a small group of power hungry conspirators is overly simplistic. But in our opinion, nothing is more simplistic than doggedly holding onto the accidental view of major world events. Well, and I know that they've had that World Economic Forum, and I think it's interesting because some of those things have been going on for like a very long time, but now we get to kind of see what's going on. And the crazy thing is to hear some of the things that they say, and it's just like, do they think we're all stupid? I'm like, do they think that like you're speaking in English actually, literally right now? And that's what I think is so cool. That I have some coworkers. Where I am, there's just like over 30 countries of people that I've met. There's countries I didn't even know exist because our education's not good, honestly. And some countries they were in fight enough that they changed their names from time to time. I know when I was doing econ class, I think it was world history or something like that in high school, and the teacher was like, well, we're doing the map test, but we can't study for it until only pretty quickly, but pretty shortly before the test, because some of these countries will change their name. And during the class, she's like, yep, some may change their name today.
Yeah, that's why it's hard to get a political map that's stable, because some borders are fluctuate.
Yeah, it's just not our reality. All right, let's see. In most cases, liberals simply accuse all those who discuss, let's see. Okay, all this, tell me if I already read this, who discuss the conspiracy of being paranoid. All you right wingers, they say, rustling every brush, kicking over every rock, looking for imaginary boogeymen. Yeah, Nick Shirley, they're looking for these imaginary boogeymen that are actually real. Then comes the coup de grace, labeling the conspiratorial theory of as the devil theory of history. So they're like, "Oh, you're so negative," you know. The liberals love that one, even though it is an empty phrase. It sounds so sophisticated.
Well, he
So,
had people saying like, "Oh, you shouldn't like investigate and all this." I'm like, well, that's your money going to waste.
yeah.
Why would you want that?
Yeah, to billions and billions of dollars. I mean, the hard thing is there was a lady from Somalia, and they talked about a lot of these fraud things happening from Somalians, primarily is the ones they've talked about in like Minneapolis or whatever. And
Yeah.
there was a lady that she was grew up there, but then she came here to do like college and stuff, and she's been here for a good number of years. And she was like, "Look, in our country, families are the primary importance, and so they're called like a clan, referred to more of as a clan. And so when they see there's loopholes, and because of how the issues they have in their country and government and that type of thing, they see that if you have created a system where there's holes in it, then you're dumb if you don't take advantage of it, because they don't see the
Mm,
hole. They just
yeah.
see their little group. And it's interesting because to me, I'm like, that's kind of a corruption of Satan, really, to go and then to make good look bad and bad look good. Like, family is good and it's important, but now you take that and you twist it and say, like, but you got to do this for your family, so it's okay. To me, that was that
Yeah.
survivor mentality from like the pandemic. Like, well, you just got to do it, right? So you just got to do it. Like, you don't have a choice, right? So
Yeah, exactly. The ends justify the means mentality.
yeah,
Oh,
that that was remind me it's time for come follow me, but we'll do that later. Okay,
okay.
let's see. With the leaders of the academic and communications world assuming the sneering attitude towards the conspiratorial or cause and effect theory of history, it is not surprising that millions of innocent and well-meaning people, in a natural desire not to appear naive, assume the attitudes and repeat the cliches of the opinion makers. These persons, in their attempt to appear sophisticated, assume their mentors' air of smug superiority, even though they themselves have not spent 5 minutes in study on the subject of international conspiracy. Well, and that's the thing they're finding out right now too, is that a lot of this money is going to other countries. You know,
Well, yeah, yeah, totally.
which, let's see, what did they claim in one of the last elections, that Russia or something was involved, right? That they were fixing the election, but now there truly is some fixing going on there with money. So,
Oh, yeah.
oh,
And
here's
there's a new comment
yes,
from
there you
Alan.
go. Go ahead.
He says they focus on the moral purpose of the supposed good that a program will do, and they don't care about the implementation and oversight. So yes, Alan, I think it was a little bit before you joined that we were talking about how you can present a compassionate front, but then th- that often excuses things not being handled right. And then you can always fall back on like, well, our intent is good. So whatever we do is okay. Whatever we do with that intent conveyed justifies anything we do at that point, from that point.
Yeah, was it the ends justify the means,
Yeah.
kind of, but saying like, oh, but they're all doing good with the money. We're sure they're all doing good things. So, oh, I just lost you, Christian. Hopefully, you'll pop back up again here. It's like, oh, good, there you are. Do you
Right.
hear me? Okay.
Welcome back. Yep. Yep.
All right.
Welcome back.
All right. Let's see. Okay. The accidentalists would have us believe that ascribing any of our problems to planning is simplistic, and all our problems are caused by poverty. And that's what we're talking about California, right? Oh, they're all homeless. We got to help everybody. Oh, let's let people steal stuff, right? That's the thing that's just insane. Let's just let people steal stuff. We're not little kids. You should be able to do some simple math and be like, this is not going to work. Let me think about it for a minute. You can't rob Peter to pay Paul, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ignorance and disease. And that's been another thing that's been found out. There was like, they would be like, we need medicine and things for these other countries and stuff. And then they didn't even have the supplies and things that they would actually provide for people to do. I know there was somebody who was a doctor that was a whistleblower that was like, and I can't imagine how hard that would be to be there trying to help people. You've taken this time and this effort and a dangerous situation possibly, depending on where you're at, and imagine not being able to help anybody. It's like for you with doing food and stuff, being like, yeah, okay, well, you're going to come and help feed these people. We got you a stand, but there's no food. Or we're going to give people hot dog buns. Okay, that's
Yeah.
going to
Or a slice of Kraft American cheese type product.
Yeah, right? Oh, you got to read Alan's other comment. Or did you already read it and I didn't?
Alan goes on to say, yep, you are hurting kids and families.
Well, and I think that's especially the thing that you see, wherever you are, you use with your like discernment with God. Part of the purpose of like love notes from God, a lot of it is to help people to see God in their everyday life and to see how He's showing us signs that He loves us and cares for us. And that's the thing is, there's a reason why people come to find out how the church runs their humanitarian programs and like the Bishop Storehouse. And, even like some people don't like President Trump, but he's one that has come and looked at it and said, wow, this is such a well run system. People that actually find out what we do, what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints does, is that often they're the first responders a lot of times when it comes to like food and supplies, and they when a disaster is coming, they already have things lined up. It's not
Yeah.
days later. It's like, they have people out of the red zone, or sometimes in the red zone, but they're just blessed to be okay and they help with what they can help with.
Yeah, mobilized.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
Good.
let's see. Oh, so let's see. I got to read that part again. It says, so when I said poverty, ignorance, and disease, it says hereafter in the book, it's going to be called abbreviated to PID. So we got to remember the simplistic problems that they're trying to solve and fix are poverty, ignorance, and disease. So that's PID. They ignore the fact that organized conspirators use PID, real and imagined, as an excuse to build a jail for us all. Ah!
Oh.
Yikes. Most of the world, that sounds kind of bad.
I think I heard the term recently, soft prison.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's reminding me of like a mental institution cell where it's like, well, the walls are soft, right?
You see this book?
Yeah.
Oh, so it might be showing it backwards. I don't know.
No, I can read The Creature from Jekyll Island. Huh.
Yeah, have you heard of it?
Of the Federal Reserve. Yeah, and I haven't, and I just learned about the Federal Reserve, about how you think that it's like a government, like entity, but it's actually like a private business.
It's not federal and there's no reserves. So that book gets into it. I do have that print copy there that I just showed, but I think it was when I was listening to the audio book version of it in the last few days that I think it mentioned the term soft prison. So something you read just now made me brought that back to me.
Yeah. Oh, Alan's got another comment.
He says the private sector is much more efficient with that. Yeah, yeah, very much. You kind of have to have some amount of government, but you always have to be vigilant and always making sure it's not getting too big. To me, every government program creates the capacity for fraud, abuse, waste, and the more it proliferates, the worse it gets. I think you need some. You need like a post office and this and the roads and stuff taken care of by the government and a few different things, but don't let it get out of control because that helps harbor corruption.
He's got another comment.
Yeah. Alan says, could it be a reference of a prison in our minds, restricting our thoughts and speech? I think so. And part of what we're talking about here is uh, these people trying to shame those who are trying to be aware of truth. Does
Yeah,
that make
because to
sense?
me, it's one of those things where you kind of go like, if you're not doing anything wrong, why are you so defensive about it then? You know,
Yeah.
because to me, I'm like, it's one of those things where it's like, if you're right, you're right, just to be right, you know. So, because I know that I have, because of all the different people that I work with, I mean, I'm with like, you know, like 100, at least 100 coworkers a day and stuff. And then, you know, hundreds of customers. I always run into different things with how people think, feel, or perceive things. And, yeah, you have to really use that gift of discernment. And there's some people you come across, you're like, I'd like to help you, but I can't. You know, like I
Mhm.
say, like happiness is a choice. And I think that's part of the thing with he talks about being a prison in your mind. To me, like I could give a million podcasts off of just the Garden of Eden with the father of all lies, how Satan has deceived people to think that they're trapped. And I was like, you know, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that I was thinking about a while because I'm pretty sure God was okay with Adam and Eve being naked because he made them, right? So my kid's like, so does that mean I'm like, no, that doesn't mean that you go around without clothes on. But like
Yeah.
he created them that way. And also the lie that they could hide from the all-knowing God, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and yeah,
Nice.
Satan wants us to be miserable like unto himself. That phrase comes back to me a lot, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
So
Very cogent.
go ahead.
Yeah. I just said that's very cogent. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So most of the world has been in PIDs since time immemorial, and it takes incredibly superficial thinking to ascribe the ricocheting of the United States government from one disaster to another over the past 30 years to PID. Accidentalists ignore the fact that some of the more advanced nations in the world had been captured by communists. Czechoslovakia was one of the world's most modern industrial nations, and Cuba had the second highest per capita income of any nation in Central and South America. Which, of course, just brings up to mind what does that bring up to your mind when they're talking about South America with what just happened, Christian?
So Venezuela, that
Mm-hmm.
one? Oh yeah. Maduro. What a thing that was.
Yeah, he was just, and the thing is he was like found guilty of these crimes. What, like it was like 2014 or something, I think I heard that he'd been like found guilty, was it by like the United Nations, or I don't remember, but he'd been found guilty of these crimes like
There was different things. I know that hardly anybody in Venezuela liked him because he was kind of a dictator, and apparently they would go through elections, and I think the most recent election, he lost it, but just said, "Oh well, I'm just going to keep being the ruler anyways."
yeah.
There you go. You know,
Yeah.
so a lot of Venezuelans were happy to see him go because I mean, he wasn't really respecting the people.
Yeah, not taking care of them like they're supposed to be, because they're supposed to be like what, like a paid servant or something, you know. serving the people.
Yeah, and he was continuing the socialism that Hugo Chavez had kind of put into place there, which, you know, once again, it puts up this face of being like, we're compassionate, we're caring, we care about all the people. But then they do stuff that, you know, actually supports a small elite class and hurts the vast majority of everybody else. And
Yeah.
goes, oh, well, that's how things go, you know.
Well, and the thing is too is it's like when you're honest about things, you realize that, even if you help one person, it doesn't just help one person, it helps like their parents or it helps their siblings or their coworkers. Like that affects other, even one person affects other people. So
Yeah. Alan is saying, unfortunately, his handpicked VP is now in charge. Yeah, everybody's wondering about that. Did they remove somebody so that somebody that's just like him can take his place? No. Um,
oh.
like what's the saying? It's like meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
we'll have
Hello
to
to the people in
see.
the chat.
So when does change for the good actually happen for the suffering people? I don't know. I do think with Venezuela, I do think the VP is not great, but I think enough has changed recently that things could start getting better overall. Maybe. Well, I think there's more U.S. monitoring it, but they don't want to control everything, but they want to monitor it. And I think, well, I heard that right after Maduro got extracted,
Yeah.
that there were all these high up political leaders that that you think would be like, well, I'm going to be the new leader. Well, I'm going to be the new leader. No, it's me. But what I heard is like all of them were kind of keeping quiet, like they don't want to be the next one to get extracted.
So that seems like a sign for positive change, right?
I think I don't think it's an instant positive change, but I kind of think the soil's being turned over somewhat. I hope. We hope. Fresh
Yeah.
produce.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. Yeah. Because that's what, like, we've got a farmer's field over here that had some issues this year and it's just all weeds. And I was like, oh, what's he going to do? And my husband's like, oh, he's just going to turn it over. Just going to turn the soil over. I'm like, oh, okay. Bury those weeds. But yeah. Let's see. All right. It is not true, however, to state that there are no members of the intellectual elite who subscribe to the conspiratorial theory of history. For example, there is Professor Carol Quigley of the Foreign Service School at Georgetown University. This must have been interesting when they were hearing their names come out in this book.
Yeah.
Nothing was redacted here, I see. Professor Quigley can hardly be accused of being a right wing extremist. Those three words have been made inseparable by the mass media, just like the great the Trumpers, right? As they call them. Those three. Okay, let's see. Dr. Quigley has all the liberal credentials, having taught at the liberal establishment's academic meccas of Princeton and Harvard. In his 1,350 page, 5-pound tome, Tragedy and Hope, Dr. Quigley reveals the existence of the conspiratorial network, which will be discussed in this book. Oh, interesting. So other people are trying to put out information about conspiracy here. The professor is not merely formulating a theory, but revealing this network's existence from firsthand experience. He also makes it clear that it is only the network's secrecy and not their goals to which he objects. Okay, so he just doesn't like the secrecy, but he's okay with the goals. Professor Quigley discloses, I know of the operations of this network because I have studied it for 20 years and was permitted for 2 years in the early 1960s to examine its papers and secret records. and then this is in all caps, I have no aversion to it or to most of its aims, and have for much of my life been close to it and to many of its instruments. I have objected both in its past and recently to a few of its policies, but in general, my chief difference of opinion is that it wishes to remain unknown, and I believe its role in history is significant enough to be known. So, and that's interesting because you brought up another book too. You showed it a little bit ago. With that one's from the 70s also? Is that right?
Um, you might be talking about this one I sent you a picture of.
Oh, and also the blue one you just showed me, the
Okay,
Federal
let me go
Reserve.
back to that one.
I'm like, are these all in the 70s? I'm wondering.
They're more recent. This is from I think 1994, when there's
Oh.
been some additions since then.
Hmm.
And there's also a. It's kind of funny, but there's also a kids book version of this.
Oh, that's like the
Yeah,
Tuttle Twins.
it is. It's the Tuttle Twins go to Jekyll Island or something like that.
Huh,
Look it
funny.
up. And then this one is from like the last uh, 5 years, roughly. Dare to call it a conspiracy. So there's
Interesting.
a couple of things there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and there is a sequel to this book as well. There's another part of
Oh,
this book. Yeah.
that that's what I was going to say when we were discussing it through the
Messaging.
messenger a couple days ago, and I sent you the picture. I'm like, I think there's like at least a third book with a similar title, but I never landed on precisely what it was. But now you're bringing it up. So, do you
Yeah.
remember what that one's called?
It was almost the same name. It was another one that was like just yeah,
Called
I
a
don't remember what it's called.
conspiracy.
Yeah,
Okay.
conspiracy. Yeah, let's see. We got a couple more pages left here, I think. So I know we were
Okay.
going to try to keep this from going much more than like an hour because it gets harder to watch for people later. Um, we agree its role in history does deserve to be known. That is why we have written this book. However, we most emphatically disagree with this network's aim, which the professor describes as nothing less than to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. In other words, this power and clique wants to control and rule the world. Even more frightening than what they want total control over all individual actions. What does that remind you of right now, Christian? Control
Total
over
control
individual,
over all individual actions.
yeah, control over individual actions.
Well, it makes me think of something that I um, read by J. Reuben Clark recently, and he was the first presidency counselor. But he talked about how, like, at any given moment, you can be like, well, this group is saying this, and this group is saying this, and it can seem like there's always different things going on. But he said what's really going on is it's always it's always between two systems.
Yeah.
One is about freedom, one is about control. That's it. That's all it ever is. Whatever the face on it is at the moment, that's always an underlying thing: freedom versus control.
Well,
Heavenly
not,
Father is all about freedom.
yeah, agency. Yeah. Well, I know that it was President Oaks when he was before he was the prophet. He had talked about abortion and how they just keep relabeling it and kind of
Yeah,
trying to change things around of what it is, but it's still the same thing. Try to repackage it and make it more palatable.
yeah, yeah. Family
Yeah.
planning.
Oh,
He
yeah,
used to call
right?
it family planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Like that doesn't even need any comment. That
yeah, that's a perfect example. In my opinion, that's a perfect example what you just came up with. Yeah. As Professor Quigley observes, his the individual's freedom and choice will be controlled within very narrow alternatives by the fact that he will be numbered from birth and followed as a number through his educational training, his required military or other public service, his tax contributions, his health and medical requirements, and his final retirement and death benefits. It wants control over all natural resources, business, banking, and transportation by controlling the governments of the world. In order to accomplish these aims, the conspirators have had no qualms about fomenting wars, depressions, and hatred. They want a monopoly which would eliminate all competitors and destroy the free enterprise system. And Professor Quigley of Harvard, Princeton, and Georgetown approves. And I know for me, and of course, anybody with any comments, please feel free to put them in the chat. I was thinking about getting chipped. We're talking about controlling actions, and also the facial recognition that is currently available. Yeah, it's
I've been to Whole Foods and they have this thing like at the payment terminal, like it says something like "pay with your palm."
Yeah. See, and
I've
me,
never used it.
and I don't want to unlock my phone. I got an iPhone now, and I do not want to unlock my phone with my face. I know they already have things on record, but I'm not going to be like, here, let me hold still so you can get a good picture of me. And I'm agreeing for you to put it in your system,
Exactly.
It's creepy.
Cows leading themselves to the slaughter.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. Professor Quigley is not the only academic who is aware of the existence of a clique of self-perpetuating conspirators whom we shall call insiders. Other honest scholars, finding the same individuals at the scenes of disastrous political fires over and over again, have concluded that there is obviously an organization of pyromaniacs at work in the world. But these intellectually honest scholars realize that if they challenge the insiders head on, their careers would be destroyed. The author knows these men exist because he has been in contact with some of them.
Wow. Okay. There you go.
Yeah. Behold the face of evil. There are also religious leaders who are aware of the existence of this conspiracy. In a UPI story dated December 27th, 1965, Father Pedro Arupe, head of the Jesuit order of the Roman Catholic Church, made the following charges during his remarks to the ecumenical council.
Ecumenical.
There you go. See? If you were reading it, Christian, just better. your use of syntax is better, I know. This godless society operates in an extremely efficient manner, at least in its higher levels of leadership. It makes use of every possible means at its disposal, be they scientific, technical, social, or economic. And something that's been interesting to me is how many people be like, oh, well, that's just science and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but the thing is they say that the more you come to know about science and things, the more you come to know about God, like the more that veil is lifted and there's more things that you understand, and you come to know that they lie about science sometimes, or they just omit things.
That definitely occurs. That's why you have to be committed to always learning, because when you do that, you might undo something that you learned in the past that was false.
Yeah.
Or not fully true. But then you get more enlightened, and it can be scientific truth, gospel truth. Just keep at it,
Well, you might learn something before they change it, right? To a lie. It might be right.
There's also that too.
I'm sure you're a little bit older than me. I'm sure there's been some things you're like, I don't think that's what that used to say. That doesn't sound right to me. I think it used to be something else.
I remember in the 70s hearing like uh, pretty soon the Earth is going to freeze, and we're all going to be, ice cubes, and give it 5 or 10 years. Well, then 5 or 10 years later, they're like, we're all going to like burn up in 5 or 10 years. Global warming. Well, which is it?
I know, right? Our friend in Florida, Betty, they've had snow this year, you know.
Yeah. Wow.
And my sister, my husband's sister in North Carolina, her kids are happy about the snow because they lived in Wyoming and
Right.
got snow all the time. And even when they lived in San Antonio, Texas, they ended up with snow before us one year. So things are just changing.
I
Yeah.
remember being very little, I think like 4 years old, and going on a family trip, and we went through Arizona, and there was snow, and I heard Arizona was a hot desert place. You know,
Yeah.
why is there snow in Arizona? Just funny.
Alan's got another one.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? When I was, he says school waiting for Miami to be completely underwater. Oh yeah, that's the thing. Is like Miami is brought up sometimes as an example of like where people are that say that everything's going to be underwater soon. Well, hey, why are they buying beachfront property in Miami?
That's
Because
a
they
good
know that.
question.
You know.
It's a good question,
Uh,
Christian. Hmm.
I glanced at my phone. This is sort of off topic, but not totally off topic. I
Okay.
got I checked and got an email from Troy's wife and a text message from Troy's wife and Andrea giving a Zoom link
Oh,
for tomorrow.
no, cool.
Me and Jeanette are gonna still go in person. We,
Oh,
we have
good.
we have to get to bed. We're night owls, so we have to get to bed earlier than normal and wake up earlier than normal. But we're happy to do it. And then we have a place that we know we're going to eat at afterwards and
Oh,
before we head
nice.
back. But now there's a Zoom link, and I think that can get shared around to people
Yeah.
who should be interested. But
Yeah,
okay,
definitely. Yeah, well, that's part of our modern technology. That's a friend that passed away. That's a podcaster in California there, and he, yeah. So it's cool how we can be able to find out things in such real time now, which is also the danger too, because if something's not right, all of a sudden it's like that War of the Worlds radio program where they had people really
mm,
thinking that the world was ending. Well, gosh, now
yeah,
you can create a picture with words, just like we did for the thumbnail. We just created that thumbnail with words, you know.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, and agencies just never been so on fire. Your opportunity to choose. Alan's up again.
Okay, coming here. Did you say there's a page or two left?
Yeah, just a couple of
Uh,
pages left. Yeah.
remember all the scare in the '90s about acid rain? Yeah, I do. I remember. I remember hearing about that as a kid and thinking, I guess make sure a raindrop doesn't hit you. I didn't fully know what was going on. It sounded dangerous, but yeah, that was one of the things thrown out
Well, and
for sure.
I had a friend who's a member of our church who's a scientist, and he goes, that hole in the ozone? That's what I remember hearing about in the 90s. The hole in the ozone
No,
layer, guys. Don't use that hairspray. It's contributing,
no, yeah,
to the hole in the ozone. He goes, actually, you don't hear about that anymore. Why? He's like, because it's a vent and it expands and contracts during certain times of the year during the seasons. He's like, it just goes back and forth. He's like, so they'd say,
and
oh, it's
your
growing.
hairspray has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it's a small drop in the bucket, right?
Yeah,
If anything at all. But
yeah,
all right, let's see. I don't know if I read this part. This godless society operates in an extremely efficient manner, at least in its higher levels of leadership, and makes use of every possible means at its disposal, be they scientific, technical, social, or economic. Oh, I did read that. Okay. It follows a perfectly mapped out strategy. It holds almost complete sway in international organizations and financial circles in the field of mass communications, press, cinema, radio, and television. Well, and of course, now there's the internet, right? And the internet just right there on your phone in your hand.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, and I
And
mean,
here's the phone, and you can kind of think of this as like your own urim and thummim in a way. There's the screen. There's so much information that you can see on it and interact with and learn from. It it's amazing, and yeah,
and scary and terrifying. Yeah.
I was gonna lead into that too. Yeah, there's so much that can be done with it,
Well,
good and bad.
and now they have people that get people to hurt themselves and worse than hurt themselves through online means because they've gotten so good at manipulating people. And I was
Oh,
like,
there's
oh,
all sorts of things. Yeah, AI telling kids to kill themselves, and they do, and
or
uh,
people set these little chat groups up and stuff, and they think there was somebody that it was like they were crocheting, a crochet group. It
hmm.
was a kid.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's real bad. Yeah, they're going to do them to do terrible things to themselves. There's a guy that just got arrested recently in Maryland for trying to manipulate and a kid here in Idaho from
Oh,
Maryland.
wow.
Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah,
I've
it's
seen stuff
crazy.
that just is sad.
Yeah, the adversary, he just delights. He delights. But then there's a miraculous blessings of people getting baptized where there's not even missionaries.
Oh,
One of the
mhm.
young men at our state conference, the last speaker was a young man who just come back from his mission. I don't remember where. He said his last contact, just before he came home, was a lady on Facebook who said, "How do I get baptized?" It wasn't, "Hey, I want to learn about your church." It was, "How do I get baptized?" Because
That's a good contact.
she'd already converted herself online through the things that she'd read and
Wow.
seen and whatever. She'd never met with missionaries. That was like the final step to get baptized,
Okay.
was to find out how to get baptized.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. Okay. So that's good.
yeah. Well, I know there was a baptism not long ago. It was like 90 people one day in a country where we don't have missionaries. So people are
Hmm.
using advertising on social media like Facebook, buying it up cheaply, advertising, and yeah, hearts of the
Wow. Good.
um
Very
turn the
good.
hearts of the fathers to the children and the children to the fathers. There's a lot of people, 90, not more, over 90% of the people that go to the family search in Utah are not LDS.
Wow. So this is kind of a facet of the gathering.
Yeah, fathers to children, children to fathers. Yeah, they aren't
Good.
investigating for the same reasons we are, and they're outdoing us for sure.
Wow.
So yeah,
They have the spirit of Elijah and they don't know it.
and it was there were 15 countries short of it being the whole world of
Oh,
people from every country in this.
oh, okay.
15 countries short. I think that's a lot. The gospel will cover the earth, and I'm like, well, the ancestors are pulling on their descendants,
Yeah, good. So God's work is going on even in this crazy world.
Yep. So let's see. Now, there are a number of problems to be overcome in convincing a person of the possible existence of a conspiratorial clique of insiders, whom, from the very highest levels, manipulate government policy. And that's what we're seeing too. This government policy of like all this, money, money, money. In this case, truth is really stranger than fiction. We are dealing with history's greatest whodunit, a mystery thriller which puts Earl Stanley Gardner to shame. If you love a mystery, you'll be fascinated with the study of the operations of the insiders. If you do study this network of which Professor Quigley speaks, you will find that what you had at first seemed incredible not only exists, but heavily influences our lives. And I can remember one of Alan's favorite books. There was like a crime book that was some of his favorites. I bought him one for Christmas one year. I can't remember the name. But yeah, there are people like there's the true crime and stuff that people follow, cold case and everything. But I
Mhm.
think too, though the good thing about those things is it helps you to realize that your eyes need to be open wider than you think.
Yeah,
The truth isn't what's right before you. It's kind of that and what's around, especially what's around,
I think it's
peripheral truth.
the Book of Mormon says, awaken to the sense of your awful situation.
Oh
Hey,
yeah.
become aware.
Wow, that feels
Right there.
yeah. Oh
And then you
yeah.
shall see these things come among you.
Hmm. And that's the danger of the Book of Mormon, right? Why they don't want you to read it, because then you'll see this stuff happening. That's what to me, I'm like, that's really why, they don't want you to see what's
Hmm.
happening. Too dangerous, that Book of Mormon. Man, gotta watch out. Um, all right, let's see. Okay. It must be remembered that the first job of any conspiracy, whether it to be in politics, crime, or within a business office, is to convince everyone else that no conspiracy exists. The conspirators' success will be determined largely by their ability to do this. That the elite of the academic world and mass communications media always poo poo so nice poo poo the existence of the insiders merely serves to camouflage. Okay, let's see. The existence of the insiders merely serves to camouflage their operations. These artists hide the boy, the cart, and the donkey. Probably at some time you had been involved with or had personal knowledge of some event which was reported in the news. Perhaps it concerned an athletic event, an election, a committee, or your business. Did the report contain the real story, the story behind the story? Probably not, and for a variety of reasons. The reporter had time and space problems, and there is a good chance the persons involved deliberately governed what facts went into the story and which were deleted. Our point is that most people know from personal experience that a news story often is not the whole story, but many of us assume that our own case is unique when really it is typical. What is true about the reporting of local events is equally as true about the reporting of national and international events. Psychological problems are also involved in inducing people to look at this evidence concerning the insiders. People are usually comfortable with their old beliefs and conceptions. When Columbus told people the world was a ball and not a pancake, they were highly upset. They were being asked to reject their way of thinking of a lifetime and adopt a whole new outlook. The intellectuals of the day scoffed at Columbus, and people were afraid they would lose social prestige if they listened to him. Many others just did not want to believe that the world was round. It complicated too many things. And typical flat earthers had such a vested interest involving their own egos that they heaped abuse on Columbus on, uh, for challenging their view of the universe. Don't confuse us with facts. Our minds are made up, they said. These same factors apply today because the establishment controls the media. Anyone exposing the insiders will be the recipient of a continuous mm, fusillade of invective newspapers, magazines, TVs, and radio. In this manner, one is threatened with loss of social respectability if he dares broach the idea that there is organization behind any of the problems currently racking America. Unfortunately, for many people, social status comes before intellectual honesty. Although they would never admit it, social uh, social position is more important to many people than is the survival of freedom in America. If you ask it, yeah. Bought off by money, right?
I was going to say earlier that, and my wife and I talk about it a lot, about how people see a career in politics as their way to get rich instead of their way to be a servant to the people.
Yeah. Yep, and they're making off even better than we could see.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're also more blackmailed than people realize too, I think. Hello, new person in the chat. And if you comment, we are reading comments too. Let us know anything you think about conspiracy. We've been talking about things with Nick Shirley, also with I watch Cash Jordan from time to time, and we're just reading this book, None Dare Call It Conspiracy, and we're getting pretty close to being done with that, actually. But if you ask, so all right, I'll come back to this. So if you ask these people which is more important, social respectability or saving their children from slavery, which I really hate it when they start being like, talking about slavery and they're like, oh, the people in the concentration camps and Nazis. I'm like, wow, just the way that they are trying to throw things around, the drama to try and shut people up. Let's say they will tell you the latter, of course, but their actions or lack of the same speak so much louder than their words. People have an infinite capacity for rationalization when it comes to refusing to face the threat to America's survival. Deep down, these people are afraid they may be laughed at if they take a stand, or may be denied an invitation to some social climber's cocktail party. Instead of getting mad at the insiders, these people actually get angry at these who are trying to save the country by exposing the conspirators. Good look bad and bad look good.
Yep, there you go. Right there.
One thing which makes it so hard for some socially minded people to assess the conspiratorial evidence objectively is that the conspirators come from the very high social strata. They are immensely wealthy, highly educated, and extremely cultured. I think that people have not realized the length of the training some of these people have gone through. It's just a different world that we live in, And unfortunately for some of them, they are born into it. And so they only know things being this way. And I think that puts things into a different perspective for people. I'm like, we can't assume that everybody understands how wrong what they're doing is, unfortunately.
Somebody just said shalom.
Oh, hey, you here? Good to see you. Oh, I'm trying to remember where you live. You here? I'm trying to remember where you live. You here? I don't know. Am I saying it right? You here?
I think that's a decent guess.
Yeah. All right, let's see. All right. Oh, Florida. Yeah, are you getting snow there? You here? Are you getting snow? Yeah. Well, I know that you have some. At least I saw you had like one boy down there that I had seen in a video that you had. So, yeah, I know my sister-in-law, her kids are loving the snow in North Carolina that they don't usually get. So, they must be in a good spot where it's not too bad. My name in the Bible is Jair. So should I say it Jair? 4 kids. Yeah. Cool. Yep, it's a blessing to be a parent. Oh, and I lost Christian. Hopefully he'll pop back up again, like last time. So, and I'm going to find the spot where I'm at with reading here.
I'm here.
All right, there we go. Okay, so we just read they are immensely wealthy, highly educated, and extremely cultured. Many of them have lifelong reputations for philanthropy, which is being really generous and giving your money and looking really nice. Nobody enjoys being put in a position of accusing prominent people of conspiring to enslave their own Americans, but the facts are inescapable. Many businesses and professional people are particularly vulnerable to the don't jeopardize your social respectability pitch given by those who don't want the conspiracy exposed. The insiders know that if the business and professional community will not take a stand to save the private enterprise system, the socialism through which they intend to control the world will be inevitable. They believe that most business and professional men are too shallow and decadent to status conscious, too tied up in the problems of their jobs and businesses to worry about what is going on in politics. These men are told that it might be bad for business or jeopardize their government contracts if they take a stand. They have been bribed, which we just talked about before, into silence with their own tax money. And yeah, here it says either way works. Anyways, so yeah, bribed or blackmailed. I think both those things just end up going along together too often that it's pretty hard to separate because on one hand it's a bribery, on the other it's a blackmail because you're not going to be, as they said, you're going to be put to shame, you're going to be canceled. I think that cancel culture that really came into play, like so many things came into play 2020.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody getting canceled.
Yeah. Says we're hoping that the conspirators have underestimated the courage and patriotism remaining in the American people. We feel there are a sufficient number of you who are not mesmerized by the television set or online, as we would say now, who put God, family, and country above social status, who will band together to expose and destroy the conspiracy of the insiders. The philosopher Diogenes.
Diogenes.
Is that right? Diogenes scoured the length and breadth of the ancient Greece, searching for an honest man. We are scouring the length and breadth of America in search of hundreds of thousands of intellectually honest men and women who are willing to investigate facts and come to logical conclusions, no matter how unpleasant those conclusions may be. He has a comment there. Here it is.
You know why I can't get canceled? I'm telling the truth.
Yeah.
There you go. You hear?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, I think now too, is it's like, they talk about people having like manipulated themselves or gotten manipulated to the point where they just don't quite see what's going on anymore. There you are again, Christian. And I know that, for myself, I got really frustrated with social media when it was like, oh, you're putting forth, the famous phrase that nobody wants to hear again. When you were putting out bad information, what would you?
Disinformation?
Yeah, disinformation. Yes, disinformation. It's information, but it's bad information. And I was like, you're calling me a liar? I got a problem with that. So I think that's the thing is too, is it's like at a certain point, where does your honor stand? And it was really interesting to me. There's so many things that I've learned from going to the temple over the years. And one of them that I just kind of grabbed onto was, I think it's Swedish names. It's that area. That
Hmm.
might be the wrong country, but they like will have like John's daughter. And so it's
Yeah.
interesting, for example, like, so if you're a female, it'd be like daughter, like a daughter, like a son and a daughter. So you'd be like, oh, well, if your last name is John's daughter, you are John's daughter. And so it's interesting because your father's name, like, is your like his first name is your last name. Like, you really only have like one name that is yours. The other ones are like from your parents and stuff. And so when we talk about like taking our, taking Christ's name upon us, I think it's kind of an interesting, kind of like a similar reflection of, how important family is, that blood that runs within us. And I think that there is a similar thing too when it talks about being a patriot. Like, do you consider there to be something sacred about the lands that you live on, and something that is worth respect and honor and sacrifice and appreciation and defense?
Yeah.
So, and that was the last page of that book there too. But
Oh, wait, did you completed the chapter, first
mhm,
chapter?
yep.
Okay.
And he also just said fake news. I don't think you read that. And
Mm,
then you want to read what he says after
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, that's why Jesus' name means salvation. Well, it's all about Christ.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that and this is a phrase I've said a lot of times during the pandemic, is because of so many things that got taken away from people, their freedoms to like move around, to go places, and freedoms to like speak, and the freedom of assembly and the right to worship, even those things were encroached upon. I remember Elder Bednar said it was like a church college, business college, that he was doing a like a little, not a fireside, but they were having like a little interview, like a Zoom, because that's all they could do. And he said, notice how quickly they close the churches.
Yeah, yeah.
you know and I was like,
Oh, but
whoa, what?
you couldn't go to church, but you could go to a liquor store.
Yeah, or certain other events, you could go protest, right? You could go
Yeah,
that was, the air was
exactly.
different if you're
Yeah,
protesting. And for certain sides it was okay. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, it was crazy. Well, anyway, so I think I better let you go because I know that you've got a long drive tomorrow and it's getting late here. But I'm planning on having these every week. And
Okay.
thanks everybody for who joined us for a little bit or a long while. Sorry, we got to get going because oh gosh, we've already at about 2 hours, so longer than I was
Right.
thinking. So,
Hmm.
anyways, but
We had a good chat.
yep. Yep, too many things to talk about. We didn't hardly even scratch the surface of things that we could have talked about, right? Just, I mean, we mentioned food and we
We'll
even
be
started
back
talking about food.
again.
Yep. Plenty of opportunity for more conversation. So, anyways, thank you everybody for joining. Please don't remember to like, comment, and subscribe so that you can see the different videos that come out. I have some things that from another channel too that are more specific to being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that I'm going to be putting out over here. And it's so fun to be able to, there's a thing called quantum entanglement in space, and that's where one thing in one part of space can affect something from a much larger distance. And to me, like through the spirit, we're able to encourage and uplift each other and support each other. And prayer is a real thing. God, Jesus Christ, they're a real thing. And the love notes from God that they give us every day. Did you have anything I'm grateful for those, and that I can know who to look to for answers and for direction. And I say that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. What, do you have anything you want to add in there,
Amen.
Christian?
It's going to be interesting going to the future. I know I have one quick thought. We're talking about America and things that have unfortunately have hurt it over time. We are now in the 250th year of America, and I remember when it was the 200th birthday, and we called it the bicentennial year. I never realized I would be experiencing the 250th year, but I wondered what's the what are you going to call it when it's the 250th year? Bicentennial. That's nice and short and but memorable. What do you call the 250th year? Well, I
Yeah.
looked it up. Do you know what it's called?
Alan, I bet you know. You're a history teacher. You need to, you got to know this, Alan. What is it called?
I looked it up. Alan can type it in, but
Oh,
what I
you
found
did?
out is
Oh,
that I found out it's called the semi-quincentennial. What
oh,
a mouthful. But to me, this should be every American should be taking this as an opportunity to refresh their memory about what America really is.
yeah, amen.
The
I agree with that.
semi-quincentennial. Yep.
And he's wearing his patriotic shirt right now. I know. I'll have to wear my patriotic. I gotta wear my patriotic shirt next time. I've got one that says "We the People" on it. So, yeah.
Um, did you see that comment?
Oh, is it? I
It's
see a
funny.
comment, but one is being held for review, so I don't know what that is. He's watching me squirm, having too much fun
Yeah.
watching me squirm. Oh, okay. Yeah, with God, I enjoy myself. I have like pretty much every day is a good day for the most part. That's the thing is with having that relationship with God is that no matter what things you see happening around you, there's a purpose for it. We know why we came here. We know why we're here. We know where we're going. We know where we're going to
Yeah.
be. Like you going to that funeral tomorrow. We know that that's the body. We're celebrating the life
Yeah.
that he lived here, but that's just the body.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we better get going. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night, and thank you for joining us.
Thank
We'll
you,
see y'all.
everyone.
Yeah, we'll see y'all later. Thank you. Bye. Or make sure that he gets me off there.
God bless America.
I don't know if he's there just to get us off.
That
Hold
is
on.
Thomas.
Yeah. Yeah. We can just exit on there and then we'll see.